What do you do when you've got a few days off work? Try to cram in as much of the Scottish Highlands in as possible, of course. Sometimes I don't learn, and this trip is another example of me trying to do too much in not enough time. But without further ado, let's begin.
Good morning. It has just gone 10 o'clock in the morning. I am here in my hotel room in Carlisle, and shortly I'll be heading off towards Scotland via Hadrian's Wall.
It was a wet yet somewhat sunny morning in Carlisle, and after breakfast from the local bakery, I arrived at a portion of Hadrian's Wall. Named after Emperor Hadrian, it was built by the Romans to keep the Celtic tribes out of Roman Britain, taking over 6 years to build. This section of the wall is now a National Trust site, with other Roman ruins to explore and curios to discover. A worthwhile stop on the way to Scotland.
Well, that was lovely. I'm having to speak up a bit now because it is hammering it down with rain. And because of that, I'm not sure how much I'm actually going to be able to see today. Maybe I'll wait for this to die down a bit first. Look, it's just like a little mini river.
By the time I got to the border, thankfully the rain had stopped, which meant I could explore Dumbarton Castle. Just south of Loch Lomond, it sits on Dumbarton Rock, with the River Clyde running in front of it, and the River Leven on the other side. Its history seems to go back at least 1,000 years, with evidence of strategic human settlements here before the castle. Getting round the site involves a lot of steps, so be prepared.
That is one hell of a view. This is lovely. And unsurprisingly, I'm the only person here at about 3:45 on a Friday afternoon. But this place does shut at 5, so I need to get a move on to see everything that's here. So there you have the French prison. And then just down there, you have the pitch for Dumbarton FC. What a place to have a ground with that looking over you when you're watching games. Amazing. And then the water just to the side. Amazing location. I reckon it would be worth paying the entry fee to come into the castle to watch a game from up here. How awesome would that be? I've made it to the highest point of Dumbarton Rock. And again. Hey, how about that?
If you're heading up to the Highlands from England, then I'd highly recommend stopping by Dumbarton Castle. The views alone are worth it, but you have the historical element on top of that. And on this day, I was also lucky enough to finish my sightseeing with a rainbow adorning the landscape, before heading off to the next hotel in the village of Arrakar.
I have arrived at my first hotel in Scotland. Fairly small and basic, but it will do the job for one night, and it is certainly better than my hotel last night in Carlisle. Just heading out for dinner. Going to go to the chippy over the road and then for a beer or two at the pub a few doors down.
When I say just across the road, I really mean it. It's behind that white van. The shop doesn't just sell food though. It has souvenirs for tourists like me, as well as handmade soaps and candles. I ended up ordering a bit too much, but I was very hungry. Fish and chips, of course, but being in Scotland I had to get some haggis. Deep fried admittedly, but potentially my first time trying it. And all washed down with iron brew. My belly full, it was a very short walk to the local bothy. Even though it was wet, I had to take in the view of Loch Long out the back of the bothy, with the sun beginning to set. What an incredible setting to have a pint!
Right, so I'm back in my room and I picked up a few drinks at the local shop. They are Loch Lomond Brewery, even though the Loch, I've probably already mentioned this, the Loch that I'm next to is actually the Long Loch, not Loch Lomond. Got to decide which one I'm going to have now. Also, Buckfast, got to have that in Scotland. Not sure if I'll have it tonight. And then, of course, some Scottish shortbread. Although, I've never noticed this. Now, Buckfast is actually English. Look, made in Devon. Cup of tea, a spot of reading, before I get some much needed sleep before tomorrow's long drive to the Isle of Skye. Good morning. It's just coming up to 9 o'clock and I was hoping I would have left by now, but I woke up in the middle of the night feeling quite sick Fortunately, I wasn't sick, but yeah, I needed a bit of extra time in bed, so going to be a bit later to the Isle of Skye now, but should still have enough time to see a few bits.
You shouldn't have eaten so much, Matthew. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. As well as still having time to see things in Skye, there was stunning scenery all the way up, although I wasn't able to stop in most of them, as motorhomes more often than not were taking up all the parking spaces. My first proper stop of the afternoon was at Eilean Donan Castle. It's situated on its own tiny island, shortly before the bridge over to Skye. Built in the 13th century, it was destroyed in the 18th century, before being restored from its ruins in the early 19th century. It's one of the most recognisable structures in Scotland, and has featured in major films such as Highlander and the 1999 James Bond film The World Is Not Enough. You're not allowed to film inside, but trust me, it's very regal and impressive. And if you want to see, I'm sure you can Google some images at least. The views out across the water are every bit as impressive as the castle itself, with the islands lying at a cross point for 3 lochs. More haggis for lunch, this time in a ciabatta sandwich, after which I headed off to the next sightseeing point of the day, the Old Man of Storr. What you're seeing here is actually facing away from the Old Man. Rude, I know, but it was beautiful in every direction. Another rainbow greeted me as I started my walk up to the famous rock formation. You get an okay view of it as you walk up, but it's nothing compared to what you see from the top of the trail. It's roughly a 3-mile round trip on foot to the main viewpoint, but it's 100% worth it. Already impressive, but not fully there yet. Finally, I made it to the top. I was up here relatively late in the day, with the low sun and clouds offering dramatic shadows across the landscape. I sat here for a bit, taking in the view, but I couldn't stay for too long, as I had one thing left to see.
Right, I'm back down the bottom. Time to go see a waterfall, as long as I got enough daylight left. Fingers crossed.
Yes, I had enough daylight left, but Kilt Rock Waterfall wasn't really worth seeing. You need a drone to get a good view of it, and I'm pretty sure there were signs saying it was a no-drone zone to protect local birds. The drive from the waterfall to the hostel was lovely though.
So I'm in a hostel for a night. This is my room. That's my bed right there.
The cowshed in Uig was my accommodation for the night, recommended to me by a colleague who'd stayed there a month earlier. A beautiful location right next to the sea, although if you want dinner there's only a handful of options and you'll need to pre-book. I hadn't, so dined on crisps and shortbread while continuing my book or while watching the sunset on another day. It was an early start the following morning, with one more site to tick off before the long drive back to the south of England. As the sign says, the site in question was the Fairy Pools. Nestled at the foot of the Black Quillen Mountains, the Fairy Pools are a collection of mini waterfalls and rock pools, stretched out along about 3/4 of a mile. The walk isn't too taxing, but I'd still recommend good walking shoes. At one point I saw a guy swimming in one of the pools. Maybe in the summer, but not in this weather. What an absolute nutter. Even though it was quite overcast, you can see the clouds covering a lot of the mountains, it didn't dampen my experience, and I got quite far along the trail before deciding I'd seen enough. So, a quick summary. Can you do the Scottish Highlands in 2.5 days? No. I'm known for trying to economise on my time when I travel, but this time, even more so than usual, I wish I'd given myself more time. Did I mention time? But seriously, give yourself at least a week to explore properly, and if you're into hiking, probably even longer than that. I only skimmed the surface of this stunning part of these isles us Brits call home. It reminded me of Iceland, which isn't too surprising given the two places share similar topography. So yeah, to cap it all off, would 100% recommend, just not in the way that I did it. That's all for this video, have a good one, and I'll catch you next time.